Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking, all right? So as you guys come in, y'all already know what to do. Make sure you bang on that like button. Also, make sure that you share the video out. If you're not subscribed to all the other channels, make sure that you do that real quick right now, all right? So shouts out to my man J Fields 247 who is in the room already. Good to see you as always, bro. What we're going to be talking about is a two-pronged issue that happened, all right? I don't know if you guys are aware, but Puerto Rico was just recently hit with a hurricane, all right? This hurricane was called Hurricane Fiona, and what ended up happening was that Hurricane Fiona ended up knocking out a lot of power. If I'm not mistaken, I think a large portion of Puerto Rico is without electricity. Now, why am I talking about that, right? I'm going to tell you why I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it because Mayor Eric Adams of New York recently put out this statement. This statement was put out September 20th of 2022. And what it says is Mayor Adams' statement on Hurricane Fiona destruction in Puerto Rico. All right. New York City Mayor Eric Adams today released the following statement after Hurricane Fiona ripped through Puerto Rico. We call Puerto Rico our sixth borough. That's nice. And as Hurricane Fiona leaves behind a path of destruction, our administration stands ready to provide all of the support and aid our brothers and sisters need. I didn't know, all of us had brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. Some of us may, most of us probably don't. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man Alonzo Griffin, who watched the 90-hour stream from last night. I'm going to need you guys to show my man Alonzo some love. Let me ask you this question real quick, Alonzo. Was it worth it? That's the question. Was it worth it? You know what I'm saying? We got my man DJ Elmo in the building. What up with it, DJ Elmo? And we got Mimi McCoy in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, show some love to the people that came in early and drop some radiation emoji for them, all right? An initial team of New York City emergency management specialists are being deployed today to amass the damage and determine how we can best help. Now, that sounds good, right? What problems do you all see with this initially? Based on initial reports, we are also looking at possibly readying a larger multi-agency team to deploy in the coming days. We are in constant contact with those on the ground and are determining how we can be most helpful in the days and weeks ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Eric Adams of New York City. Shout out to my man Red Raven Rucker. What up with it, bro? What do you guys see wrong with this? If anything, maybe nobody sees anything wrong with it. I see a couple things. So what we're going to do next is we're going to get a little bit of some background information about this hurricane that hit. All right. We're going to see exactly what ended up happening. All right. So here's an article from the New York Post. Hurricane Fiona makes landfall in entirely powerless Puerto Rico. All right. So Puerto Rico has no power, no electricity, no nothing as a result of this hurricane. Okay. Now remember, Eric Adams to the rescue. Okay.
Tropical storm Fiona has strengthened and is now heading towards the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, where hurricane warnings are in place. On Friday, it went across Guadeloupe, killing a man who was swept away with his house when a nearby river flooded. The island was placed on red alert for heavy rains and storms. Its residents were prepared. This woman says, "We buy groceries and we stay locked in our homes, except for extreme."
I find this interesting that they found a black Puerto Rican for this interview. Man, they are really trying to push the narrative that like literally, the plantation thing is just a myth. I mean, they are literally trying to do that.
been cases when we might call the emergency services. Schools in Guadeloupe were closed as the island experienced 120 kilometers an hour winds and 23 centimeters of rain in 3 hours. Some residents stocked up on essentials. I'm getting some water in case we're cut off, and candles, you never know. But the storm is not that big. So far this cyclonic season, 7 named storms have formed in the Atlantic basin, 2 of which, Danielle and Earl, have reached hurricane status.
Now, here's my question. Do you guys see anything wrong with this? Shout out to my man Keith. Shout out to AJ. Shout out to Hey Mr. Knickerbocker. Do you guys see anything wrong with this? All of Puerto Rico was without power Sunday as Hurricane Fiona hit the island, bringing with it massive amounts of rain and catastrophic flooding. The storm made landfall at 3:20 p.m. Eastern Time on Puerto Rico's southeastern coast with maximum sustained winds of 85 miles an hour, according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center. It's time to take action and be concerned, Nino Correa, Puerto Rico's emergency management commissioner, said of the hurricane, which blanketed the entire island with its clouds. The tempest was estimated to dump historic levels of rain, up to 25 inches of rain, with most areas seeing between 12 and 16 inches, forecasters said. These rains will produce life-threatening flash flooding and urban flooding across Puerto Rico and the Eastern Dominican Republic, along with mudslides and landslides in areas of higher terrain, NHC said. Fiona hit shortly after Governor's Island, Pedro Pierluisi confirmed, after the island's governor, Pedro Pierluisi, confirmed the mass blackout and activated the National Guard. All right. So pay very close attention. What do you guys notice about this picture right here? Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker got it. Well, Puerto Rico is supposedly part of the U.S., so technically we are supposed to help and care, but Jackson ain't got water. So many levels of GAF is near zero. Facts. If you guys agree with, hey, Mr. Knickerbocker, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. What I want you guys to see is how quickly Mayor Eric Adams said, I'll do whatever I can for you people. Now, he's just the mayor. It's not like Joe Biden addressed this or anything. This is Mayor Eric Adams using New York City taxpayer resources. It's not New York City taxpayer resources or responsibilities for them to deal with issues of an American Commonwealth. Puerto Rico is the United States Commonwealth, and they should be under the jurisdiction of the federal government, for one. For two, Mayor Eric Adams said, oh, they're the 6th borough. Last time I checked, I thought Long Island was the 6th borough. But okay. All right. So now my question is, why is Mayor Eric Adams so fast to hand over money to a Commonwealth when this isn't even his responsibility? And if he wanted to hand over some help and there were some extra resources, why didn't he give it to Jackson? That's the question. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, please show, hey, Mr. Knickerbocker, some love. $10 super chat, y'all. You know what that means. We will be streaming another day. We're going to be streaming another day. So drop some radiation emojis and show some love because y'all already know, you know what I'm saying? The platform definitely needs y'all's help. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker says, because there's too many blacks in Jackson. You guys agree with that? If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. I tend to agree, which is interesting because that shows the blatant disregard, which is just not addressed. Shout out to Pirate. What up with it, Pirate? We got Coffee in the building. What's up with it, Coffee? What's good? Yeah. If the links should put the Cash App in there, or you can go to the About section of the page and the Cash App should have a link on there, bro. Appreciate it. Shout out to my man Torian. You know what I'm saying? we just about to look at the Joe Biden of New York and look at how well he's practicing benign neglect, because he's definitely not benignly neglecting Puerto Rico. He definitely not benignly neglecting Puerto Rico. So we got the important parts of this down. What we know is that there's no power in Puerto Rico, and that the official statement that came out that Mayor Eric Adams tweeted on Twitter, which was right there on the New York City government page, said that he's going to give as many resources and whatever he can to Puerto Rico. All right. And clearly that's true. And I'm going to show you why I believe that that's true. This is an article here from the New York Times. New York scrambles to send aid to Caribbean battered by Hurricane Fiona. Organizations and officials in New York, a city with deep ties to both Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, have moved quickly with recovery efforts. What kind of ties do New York have to Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic? Man, these people can shell out money to anywhere where they claim that they have some kind of phony ties. Isn't New York kind of tied to Mississippi too? You know what I'm saying? Kind of curious about that, because when I saw those pictures, and as I'm looking at this picture right here, I don't see any difference in the water here, except for the fact that this is water in a natural habitat, and it looks like water coming out of the sink in Jackson, and water is not supposed to come out of the sink looking like that. But that's what's going on in Jackson. So somebody help me out with that. This is an article that's from September 20th. So this is all happening right now as we speak. Almost exactly 5 years after Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico, organizations and officials in New York are responding to another storm that has unleashed heavy rains, flash floods, and mudslides on the island and nearby Dominican Republic since Sunday. Hurricane Fiona doused parts of Puerto Rico with more than 30 inches of rain between Sunday and Monday. About 1,000 people were rescued across the island, where many streets disappeared beneath coursing muddy rivers. At least one person died in Puerto Rico and in the Dominican Republic, where heavy rain and gale winds triggered mudslides in the eastern region of the neighboring nation. Now, here's what's fascinating. One person died. That's about 10 less than what died in the Buffalo natural disaster that was called Hurricane Gendron. What did Eric Adams do about that? What did Eric Adams do about Hurricane Gendron that happened to take the lives of a bunch of black people in Buffalo, right in the state where he's close to? You know what I'm saying? He's the mayor of New York City. That happened in upstate New York, in Buffalo. So now the reason why I'm asking you guys this is because I'm asking you, is this something that should earn Eric Adams a vote? If this is something that should earn Eric Adams a vote, give me a thumbs up. If this is something that should not earn Eric Adams a vote, give me a thumbs down. And my question is, do all Democrats have a pattern of policy like Eric Adams? And if they do they deserve support? That's my question for you guys. Has anything that you guys have heard thus far been vote worthy? That's the question. Now, I'll tell you who will vote for him. Puerto Rico is home to about 3.3 million people, while the Dominican Republic has a population of roughly 10.7 million. New York City has some of the largest populations of each group outside of their native islands, with about 708,000 people of Dominican origin and roughly 660 people of Puerto Rican origin, according to census data. Now, I have a question for you. Have you ever seen Texas or any other border state go out of their way to bypass issues going on in the United States to help Mexico? Because Texas undoubtedly has deep ties to Mexico. So now my question is, why is Eric Adams doing this? Does this make any sense? So if you're a politician and you're doing things that don't make any sense, should you be allowed another term? That's the question. As New Yorkers scramble to aid Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, Hurricane Fiona continued on the Turks and Caicos Islands as Category 3 storm on Tuesday. The storm is expected to turn north and approach Bermuda by late Thursday. So far, the relief effort this weekend has moved quicker and been better coordinated than the response 5 years ago, said Marjorie Velasquez, a city councilwoman from the Bronx. In a 2018 report, Federal Emergency Management Agency acknowledged breakdowns in communication, lack of adequate supplies, and staffing issues that led to failures in response to Hurricane Maria. 5 years ago, there weren't enough volunteers to distribute supplies arriving at Puerto Rican ports, Ms. Velasquez said. Now, organizations in New York City are working directly with groups on the island, she said. On Sunday, President Biden declared an emergency in Puerto Rico, mobilizing FEMA. Here's my question. Has FEMA been mobilized for Jackson? I'm not sure, so I need some accurate information on that. If FEMA has been declared or been mobilized because of emergency declaration in Jackson, let me know. Last time I checked, if you don't have drinking water, it's an emergency. So my question for everybody is, why hasn't FEMA been dispatched in Jackson? Man, so much for the patriotism, right? So much for that patriotism. You know, we take care of America first. I mean, as much as white people and all of these people don't want to acknowledge it, you know, the people in Jackson, Mississippi are Americans. Matter of fact, everybody get ready. A lot of them are hardworking Christian Americans. They just don't happen to be white, which could possibly be linked to why that area is getting neglected. This is what assistance looks like. In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul announced that 100 New York State troopers would be deployed to Puerto Rico in the coming weeks. How many troops have been deployed to Jackson with buckets of water? That's my question. Now, here's my question. You can't have a voter base if your voters are dead, right? But MSNBC, who allegedly is the, you know, the black media, allegedly, they're wondering why people aren't voting. And they say that people that listen to Tariq Nasheed or people that listen to Kevin Samuels are the problem. So basically, what you see here is you see the black part of the Democrats mirroring what the white Democrats are doing to the Trump supporters. That's what that is. So my question is, what should be more of a high priority? Tariq Nasheed or people getting hydration in Jackson, Mississippi? I don't think that Tariq Nasheed's broadcasts have ever caused anybody death or dehydration. Unless you cried laughing at some of his jokes so hard you kind of dehydrated yourself with the tears from laughter. But I'm curious as to why that was not a front running issue. Because, in my opinion, this lapse of judgment that Mayor Eric Adams has in his blatant show of incompetency is critique worthy. I mean, you're dealing with something that's not your responsibility, and then you take up another not your responsibility issue to deal with another country that's not part of the United States, taking United States tax dollars to send to to send to Dominican Republic, and you're not a federal agency, you're a local level agency trying to assist Puerto Rico when there's people having issues here in the United States. So now, last time I checked, that's a pretty big failure. That's a pretty big issue. Shout out to my man Mike Mellis John. But yet we don't have any critique of Mayor Eric Adams and his failure. If you want to look at critique and failures of Mayor Eric Adams, you got to sit through Tucker Carlson. What Tiffany Cross and Joy Reid and all of those people on MSNBC think is that Kevin Samuels and Tariq Nasheed are the problem. Last time I checked, not having water is a problem. I mean, that's actually on Maslow's hierarchy. You know what I'm saying? She added that the state was in contact with the president of the Dominican Republic, Luis Abinader, to arrange aid. And Eric Adams, New York City's mayor, announced that a team of emergency management specialists would be deployed to Puerto Rico on Thursday. The American Red Cross is assessing damage in the region and delivering supplies to shelters, said Katie Wilkes, a spokeswoman for the organization. Now, here's what I find fascinating. Did you guys see those pictures of Puerto Rico, how messed up it looks? Now, here's my question. I don't know if anybody in here has ever been to New York City, but there's parts of New York City that look exactly like a hurricane hit it, but the only problem is that a hurricane never hit it. There's a huge homeless problem in New York City. There's a huge homeless problem in New York City, guys. But what's most important is a foreign hurricane. The New York City-based Diaspora for Puerto Rico. Seems like everybody's got a diaspora nowadays. Who dispersed them? Who dispersed these people? Is working to repair homes in Puerto Rico and make them hurricane resilient. Suri Miranda, a co-founder of the nonprofit, said it was partnering with Stronger Than Maria, a local organization. Ms. Miranda said her group was also working to raise money for items like solar lamps, rechargeable fans, portable power stations, and solar batteries. We're trying to make sure that we're not overflowing people or organizations with supplies that they may not be looking for, Ms. Miranda said. She added that relief efforts in New York were being led in many cases by people displaced by Hurricane Maria. Ms. Velasquez was able to connect with family members in Puerto Rico. And see, she has family in Puerto Rico. Sounds like a conflict of interest to me. You know what I'm saying? But okay. And she wanted to make sure that they were all safe on Monday after trying to reach them for over a day, she said. However, they lost power even before the storm hit the island, she said, and now have lost running water. Ms. Velasquez said she was determined not to see a repeat of the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. We're going to get it right this time, she said. Well, I don't know if you guys are aware, but okay, Puerto Rico is dealing with this power issue. There's areas in the United States that are dealing with power issues. There's areas here in the United States that are dealing with power issues. And what's not happening is that no aid is being sent to those areas. That's what's not happening. So you got to ask yourself the question, why not? And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have not smashed that like button, please make sure that you guys smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not shared the video out, please make sure that you guys share the video out to your social media. All right. So what else is Mayor Eric Adams doing? Oh, man, Mayor Eric Adams is doing a lot out here these days. Homeless problem in New York. Water problem in Jackson, Mississippi. But don't worry about it, though. Because if you don't have a place to stay, a cruise ship is a dock away. Shout out to my man, Al B. Black. Eric Adams considers housing migrants on cruise ships. How many of you guys ever been on a cruise ship before? If you guys have been on a cruise ship, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't, give me a thumbs down. This is where migrants are going to be housed at if it's up to Mayor Eric Adams. What do you guys think about that? That sound good? Good for them. You know, they're talking about busing people all over the place. It'd be nice if Lori Lightfoot would bus some of those people to Illinois so they could get some fresh water, the ones from Jackson. Or if Mayor Eric Adams would bus some of those people from Jackson and let them sleep on the cruise ships where they have nice, clean, running water until they get the situation taken care of down there. Shout out to my man Lunch. What up with it, bro? Shout out to Deneen. What's up with it, Deneen? So my question is, what is the disconnect here? Because there's a clear disconnect. So what is it? And my question is, why isn't the mainstream media going in on him about this? Now, remember, Mayor Eric Adams is a Democrat. We just talked about the Democrats yesterday. We talked about Stacey Abrams. We talked about Maxine Waters. We talked about Michelle Obama. Oh, you know, Rob, you're being a misogynist. Okay, well, am I being a misogynist now? Is this misogyny? I'm sure there's some people that would say that this is xenophobia. But what I find fascinating is that the very people that would say what I'm saying is xenophobia have some warped, twisted sense of nationalism of their own. So I don't understand why you would call what I'm saying xenophobic intellectually. Because there's nothing xenophobic about proper budget management. New York City's shelter system has been overwhelmed with new arrivals. So the shelter system is actually supposed to be for the homeless people, but they've been putting the migrants in it. So that's one of the reasons why you have an ongoing homeless issue in New York. It's been overwhelmed with new arrivals, but advocates for the homeless say the idea is insulting. Do you guys agree with that or do you disagree? I agree with Shatera. Send them back. As New York struggles to find housing for a wave of migrants, Mayor Eric Adams is seriously considering housing them on cruise ships, a proposal that homeless advocates have called insulting and alienating. Mr. Adams defended the idea on Monday and said the city was looking for creative ways to address a humanitarian crisis. He said the city would make an announcement once the plans were finalized. So migrants are a humanitarian crisis, but Jackson, Mississippi is not. Jackson, Mississippi is not an issue. But this is a humanitarian crisis, according to Mayor Eric Adams. We're not going to leave any stone unturned, he told reporters on Monday. The Adams administration has been working behind the scenes on the plan to use cruise ships, an idea that former Mayor Michael R. Bloomberg considered in 2002 when he struggled to respond to the homeless crisis, and that advocates for the homeless opposed at the time. The mayor's chief of staff, Frank Carone, has spoken with leaders of Norwegian Cruise Line, a major cruise ship company, to discuss the possibility of housing asylum seekers on one of its ships, according to someone familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive matter. Mr. Carone stayed on one of the company's cruise ships in Normandy, France last month as part of the administration's research, the person said. I could get some good research done on a cruise ship. So this is what Mayor Eric Adams is doing, ladies and gentlemen. And these people wonder why they can't get any votes. Here's my question. Do you all wonder why they can't get any votes, or is it clear? Is it clear to everybody why they're not getting any votes? It should be pretty clear. Shout out to my man U-Law. What up with it, bro? It should be pretty clear. Mr. Adams grew irritated on Monday over questions about Mr. Caron's travels and refused to answer questions about them at a news conference. Why? Why are these politicians getting away with not having to answer for how stupid they are? Or maybe they just can't answer those questions because they're so stupid. Mayor Eric Adams doesn't strike me as someone that excelled in calculus. So I'm going to go with you're stupid. A spokesman for the mayor, Maxwell Young, later added that no taxpayer money was used for the trip. How was it funded then? Mr. Adams, a Democrat, met with Norwegian Cruise Line chief executive Frank Del Rio on June 12th on East 57th Street in Manhattan, according to the mayor's detailed schedules, which were recently released through a Freedom of Information request by the New York Times. So what I find fascinating is the New York Times is supposed to be the liberal media, but pay very close attention to how the New York Times is requesting Freedom of Information acts to track what Mayor Eric Adams' activities are. So now here it says at the time, the city had just begun to see an uptick in migrants. The city has said that more than 11,000 people have arrived from the border since May, many sent on buses by Greg Abbott, the Republican governor of Texas. And we'll be talking about this. We'll actually be talking about this on the live stream that's scheduled on my other channel for tonight. And that's members only chat. But you can chat if you follow my Facebook and if you follow my Twitch. But the membership on that channel is only 99 cents. So if you want to chat and watch that stream, that's available for you. So now here it says, although many have a place to go, the population of the city's main shelter system has jumped by 22% since mid-May to 56,000, an increase of 10,000 in 4 months. The shelter population grew by nearly 2,000 just in the past week. Thousands of migrants, most of them Venezuelans, have been coaxed onto buses and planes heading to Washington, New York, and Chicago, and even Martha's Vineyard after making a perilous journey to the border. Mr. Adams has publicly quarreled with Mr. Abbott, criticizing his approach as inhumane and arguing that the governor's failure to coordinate with cities was making it more difficult to address their needs. All this is going on while there's nothing being done about Jackson, Mississippi. That's the important thing. Mr. Adams announced on Monday that a young female migrant died by suicide in a shelter on Sunday. Did you guys hear about that? The mayor called her death a tragedy and said that the city would continue to offer mental health services to migrants. So that's nice. You get a mental health service if you're a migrant. When is the last time you guys had some nice, comfortable couch time with a shrink? He said the city could not provide further information about the woman or details of her death. I don't know if you guys are aware, but a healthcare worker in New York City recently jumped out of a window to her death. If I'm not mistaken, that took place in the Bronx today. So she just basically said, fuck it all, and skydove without a bungee cord. And I don't know why she did it, but she did. Probably because she was a healthcare worker, because that shit'll make you feel like you're about to do that shit sometimes. But that's not a reason why you should do it. You know what I'm saying? But the point of me saying that is that there's more than just migrants with mental health issues in New York. New York is a place where people are blatantly crazy right in front of your face, and it's just accepted as normal. I don't know if anybody's ever been there, but anybody that's ever been there can definitely vouch that for me. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, he said the city could not provide further information about the woman or details of her death. On Friday, Mr. Adams mentioned the idea of using cruise ships to house migrants for the first time in an interview with Marcia Kramer on WCBS TV. We're examining everything from the legality of using any type of cruise ship for temporary housing, he said, and we're looking at everything to see how well to deal with this. Mr. Adams noted that Bloomberg's administration had considered the idea of putting homeless families on a cruise ship in 2002, when New York City's shelter system had a smaller population of 36,000 people. And I guarantee you that population was not migrants. Those were homeless Americans, probably a lot of them veterans. The Bloomberg administration abandoned the idea after receiving criticism. If you think about a cruise ship, it's exactly what you need, Mr. Bloomberg said at the time. Rooms with bathrooms that are safe, that we can afford in a neighborhood that we can use. Deborah Diamond, the director of legal affairs for the Coalition for the Homeless, said that the cruise ship idea was insulting and raised concerns over providing people access to transportation, food, and schools. She said it was a part of a campaign by Mr. Adams, who had cleared encampments to try to make the homeless crisis less visible. He's been pushing people to margins, and he's been pushing people out of sight, she said. We're pushing them so far here onto cruise ships, off the land, and onto the water. Ms. Diamond said she was concerned about whether cruise ships would be accessible and safe, noting that they were known as places where the coronavirus had spread quickly. So they're concerned about coronavirus. So now my question for you guys is, do you all think that this is a good idea? And if you do think that it's a good idea, let me know why you think that it's a good idea. If you think that it's a bad idea, let me know why you think that it's a bad idea. If you think that the United States has more important priorities to deal with, let me know what it is that you think that those priorities are. Me personally, if you ask me, I think that the priorities are things that are already going on here in the United States that we have issues with. Flint is still not up to par. Jackson is a new issue. How are you going to bypass all of that and open up cruise ships for migrants? Does that make any sense whatsoever? And my question is, how is it going to get done? How is it feasible? So now here it says, it just seems absurd that the city would consider cruise ships once again as the solution to the homelessness crisis, she said. We know what the solution is. It's permanent affordable housing. Okay, another solution is maybe do some control as far as allowing migrants in and out of the country, so you don't have an influx of people who would be considered homeless. Homeless people are homeless here in America for different reasons than migrants. Migrants are homeless because they left where they're from to be here, and they haven't established a life with real estate yet. If you guys agree with Mimi, they need to deal with the backyard first. Give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. I tend to agree. They need to deal with us first. Craig Hughes, a senior social worker with the Urban Justice Center, said that the city should speed up the timeline for moving people out of shelters instead of placing homeless people in cruise ships, noting that the average length of stay in shelters has increased significantly over recent years. He said, empty the shelters and you have more room to house people that need shelter that are coming through the front doors. Fabian Levi, a spokesman for Mr. Adams, said that the city had no details to share at this time regarding the use of cruise ships to house migrants. We said earlier this week we need to reassess the whole situation, and that is why we're discussing different ideas to see if they work, Mr. Levy said in a statement. This idea is part of that reassessment. Mr. Levy added that the mayor's meeting with Mr. Del Rio in June had nothing to do with asylum seekers. Mr. Adams said on CNN's State of the Union on Sunday that he was not considering abandoning the city's right to shelter law, which guarantees shelter for anyone who asks for it. But he said that New York must reassess how it carries out the law. So basically, what that means is to put restrictions on it so that he can house migrants. I mean, that's basically what that means. What else would that mean? I mean, am I wrong? Am I off base about that? Like, what else would that mean? We don't believe we should change the right to shelter law, he said. What needs to be looked at is the actual practices. The mayor received criticism last week for raising doubts about the city's commitment to the right to shelter law. The mayor said New York was facing a breaking point and criticized Abbott for failing to coordinate bus arrivals within the city. A representative for the Norwegian cruise line did not immediately respond for a comment. City officials have opened 23 emergency shelters to handle the influx of migrants. You see how quickly they can move? So they just opened 23 emergency shelters. That's how fast they can move if necessary. It's very interesting how fast they can move. Did you see how fast they moved to get that aid to Puerto Rico? They moved a lot faster to get that aid to Puerto Rico than they've moved to do anything when it comes to Jackson, Mississippi. What does that mean? What does that say? So now here it says, but the city recently failed to offer beds to 60 migrants who arrived at the corner of East 30th Street in Manhattan, where homeless men are arrested when they first enter the shelter system. Or I'm sorry, where homeless men are assessed when they first enter the shelter system. The first major such lap in over a decade. The city has previously turned to its waterways to deal with overcrowding. In 1989, when a steep increase in drug arrests filled the Rikers Island jail complex, the city used a converted British troop ship as a prison barge to house inmates and docked it in the Bay Ridge neighborhood in Brooklyn. Another floating jail barge, the Vernon C. Bain Center, is docked just north of Rikers Island. It opened in 1992 as a temporary solution and it never closed. So when they need a jail, they'll flip boats. When they need a jail, they'll flip boats. Stephen Eady, a senior fellow at the conservative-leaning Manhattan Institute. You guys know what the Manhattan Institute is. The Manhattan Institute is a white supremacist think tank, just like PragerU, just like Project Veritas, who has written a history of homelessness in America, said that on a recent visit to Rikers Island, he was told by a Department of Corrections press officer that the Bain Center had fewer problems than many of the complex's land-based buildings. He said he thought that this made the idea of a cruise ship shelter somewhat promising, though he added, needless to say, when you're talking about Rikers, you're grading on a curve. In 2002, Mr. Bloomberg was criticized for placing homeless families in a former jail. He refused to move them even in the face of a political storm. That year, Mr. Bloomberg's commissioner of homeless services, Linda I. Gibbs, toured luxury cruise liners off the Bahamas. She said at the time that the liners could be a good option for housing homeless people, but she was concerned about the cost of converting them to meet the needs of the homeless population. We would have to remove bars and discos, which are inappropriate for a shelter, she said. I mean, a damn cruise ship is inappropriate for a shelter, but that's neither here nor there. So you may as well leave a damn disco ball in there. Seriously? You may as well leave a disco ball in there because it seems like everybody is just trying to be staying alive. Stupid. So that's what Eric Adams is doing, ladies and gentlemen. And take a wild guess how much money all of this nonsense costs. Probably way more than you and I make in a year. But that's why we say all money ain't good money. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice, smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and I will catch you all on the next video. All right? Peace.